Hi, everyone. Welcome to this moment and the Diamond Mothering with Lisa and Caroline. Welcome back, everyone. Delighted to have you here on our Monday show where we are talking to Lisa about her book, The Emotionally Powerful Mother. And we're on key 4 at the moment. And we're going to talk about meeting our own emotional needs. So we talked about finding it last time, which was about like finding the fact that we have this unmet need within ourselves and that we've located that. And now the next step, Lisa, is to how do we become secure in ourselves and meet our own emotional needs. So if you could please explain how that process works and how that we can put that into practice in our relationships.
Absolutely. Thanks, Caroline. Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching tonight or this morning or today. So this is a really interesting thing because we're actually raised to expect external people, places or things to meet our emotional needs. We aren't really given the guidance on what an emotional need is, and like even just the discernment between an inner need and an external need, like the conscious discernment. So we're not really often sat down and actually have a real good think about it. At least I wasn't as a child or as a teenager. And I didn't realize that a lot of the times that I was acting out and I was reacting was because I had an emotional need that I was trying to get somebody else outside of me to meet. So, excuse me for a second, sorry.
Nice tune.
First time ever I forgot to put my phone onto silent. So that understanding, when we actually start to see like we're in the middle of a conflict or a situation or a very uncomfortable feeling, and we're just about to get emotional about it or want someone to do something to make us feel better, and in that moment if we can go, well, hang on a minute, this is actually because something in me has been activated, then that actually really gives us a lot of power, because we don't have to wait for that person to change. We don't have to wait for the situation to shift or for anybody to turn up. Right here and now, we can do something about the way we feel. And that is incredibly potent, because we can bring ourselves back into a state of empowerment. And when we then launch our next word, action, thought, we're doing it from an empowered state, which is going to get a much better outcome. So really, this is a very critical skill to start to learn. It's very unique. So everybody will have their own way of meeting their emotional needs, and it can change like for different situations. So if you can imagine that as a child, when we've had an experience or a trauma or something that we haven't been able to process those feelings, the feelings get trapped in our body, and they create an area of like, if you imagine it's frozen, it's not operating, we're not operating in that area. You could also see it as a place where there's darkness, like it's a real, because there's no flow, because the emotions are trapped there isn't that fluidity and that being able to be present in that area and actually be able to feel ourselves in that area. So it's an area that's shut down. So that area, because it's not operating, is the area where there is a need that hasn't been met, or we feel it as a need that needs to be met. We might not recognize it as a need, but often what happens is, because, let's talk in terms of love, because we've shut down the feeling in that area, the love is not flowing there. The connection is not flowing there. So because of that, there's a part of us that feels unlovable, or there's no love there and there's no connection. And what we want to do is we want to, when we recognize that, oh, there's something here, I'm feeling, oh, I feel like I don't feel like I'm lovable. It's like, okay, this is one of these areas. So what we can do about then is we can really investigate into that area and put our awareness in it and start to fill up that area with love. So it always makes sense to me that if I have an empty cup, which is what we have when we're not operating and it's frozen, it's like that part of us is empty of love or support or worth or whatever it is that we're feeling at the time. It's empty. So our cup is empty. And I can think things to myself like, I'm lovable, I am worthy, but that's not going to fill up my cup because this is a body experience. So a thought doesn't actually activate a feeling in the body. It can, but if I just think it often, I'm not generating the feeling in my body. So what I want to do is I want to be able to fill up that cup with what I'm missing. So if I am feeling unlovable, for example, I'm acknowledging I have an emotional need where I don't feel love. It's like my cup is empty of love. So then I think, how can I generate love in my body? And there are a lot of ways we can do this. If you have a pet, just sitting down and like patting your pet and just feeling love for this little creature that just loves you so much, you can start to feel it in your body. If you've got a child, like actually loving the child that you're with or your partner, like seeing how you can go out of your way to bring more love to your partner. Because when we give love, we feel it in our body. If we feel it in our body, we're meeting that unmet emotional need because we're generating the feeling in our body. Same as another thing that I do is I connect with my inner child. So often it's the more vulnerable, younger aspect of me that is holding that feeling of not being good enough or not being lovable. So one of the things I do is I'm imagining myself there for my inner child with my arm around her and just feeling love for her and assuring her that I'm here for her now because I'm an adult. That they also call that reparenting. So I can deeply connect with my inner child and bring her into me and allow that feeling of love, like her, my acknowledgement of her, to actually generate that feeling of love and connection within me. So these little things, like you get really good at doing it. It's almost like you're tracking. Like I find that during the day I'm tracking my feelings and I'm noticing these little points where I might be ready to react. And when I'm tracking them, I'm sort of going back to the need and I'm meeting the need now. It could just be taking time for myself. Like, how have I valued myself today? Have I nurtured myself? Have I run myself ragged and abandoned myself to keep other people happy? You know, like, so how can I feel of value? What can I do to make myself feel valuable and worthy? You know, maybe just pouring myself a bath, you know, like very simple and different. Really, it's up to us. What can we do? And you know it when you've done it, because as soon as you start generating that feeling, you're no longer in that state of powerlessness. You're no longer in that state of reaction. Like it very quickly brings you back to a state of wholeness.
Yeah, I love that. And then actually, when I listen to you, I'm thinking of kind of like the emergent design of relationships to be kind of innovative, because like if you're in a pattern and you're working from this pattern where you're always avoiding these areas in yourself that you haven't actually owned, or you know, it's kind of a part that you're unaware of, then your life is always going to be the same. You know, you're going to recycle the same relationship dynamic. And then when you become conscious and you start to do that work, then what emerged from the moment in that relationship is different. So it's innovative. It becomes innovative, and your life becomes more creative, as in it's something new is coming, new possibility is starting to flower in your life, because otherwise you cannot, it's an impossibility to change the trajectory of your life if you don't do that and you don't start to look at those unmet needs within yourself. Because even when you were talking about that, I was imagining the fact that when you were, you know, creating that kind of visual, I was thinking to myself that it's nearly an impossibility again for somebody to come in from outside to go in there, because it's like it's locked off. Like you don't even have access to it because you don't even know it's there as such. So how is somebody else going to, try and penetrate it when you don't even know it's there? So like, it's kind of like it's just undoable, because that is the dynamic then, isn't it? That it's not going to change in any way until you become aware of that unmet need, and then you start to kind of dissolve it, and then the free flow of your potential life to come starts to emerge, and it becomes innovative then, like your life then, because even like when you wake, I was just thinking that kind of, we have that automatic side of ourselves, and a lot of relationships are just automatic. They just go on autopilot kind of thing, and you're driving the car, it's like you just put on the cruise control, and you've forgotten that there's any kind of spark or there's anything new that's going to come in, because it's easy and it's just like, but it's that's when you're working from your patterns all the time, like, and you're just going to go on the same route all the time because it's on autopilot. And you don't have to do much, but it becomes very staged, and
and also it does get worse over time.
Yeah, and I was going to say it seems stable, but actually it starts to just, like, you start running out of petrol because you're not even stopping. You're not stopping for petrol. You go around in a circle all the time, and you're just going to end up like slowing down, and then it'll stop completely. And then it's like, relationship crisis, whether it's with your partner or your daughter, whoever it is. You need to be bringing that kind of innovative kind of movement into the relationship, and that has to be in the moment when you start to like that. And it's so powerful when you do that, because like even at the weekend I was using it, I was saying to you, I was using it, and I was becoming aware of where, instead of kind of making other people responsible for how I was feeling, I recognized I was feeling a certain way, and I took ownership of that, and then I chose how to show up differently in a dynamic, and then it had a huge difference, it was just a complete shift in that relationship, and it kind of definitely built a bridge where where there was separation before, there was a beautiful bridge of intimacy built. And
because you come into presence, don't you? You come into this emerging process, and you actually create true connection because you're connected to yourself. So rather than being in this disconnected relationship where you're not connected to yourself because of these parts of yourself that are shut down, you're trying to make this relationship work. And actually there's one of our viewers has just said that they're the same. They've repeated this same cycle, even though they were trying so hard and giving 100%, but not getting that back. And that is a very common feeling. And it leads to such frustration. It leads to anxiety, depression, and self-esteem issues, right? Like I remember being like that with my first husband. It was like I started to just feel like such a failure because I could not do anything to shift this dynamic, and I couldn't work out why, because I was trying to fix the relationship from within the dynamic. So it wasn't until I really felt my feelings and I met my own emotional need that I stepped out of the dynamic completely. And it's just like, it is sort of an illusion that we create because we haven't met and owned our feelings and really felt our feelings.
Yeah, and it's like, if you think of the car analogy, I think when it comes to intimate relationships as well, it's kind of a bit like when you decide that you're going to change that, and kind of, start using your gears and, having control of the car yourself. Sometimes like the other person still wants to be on autopilot and you don't want to, you know what I mean? So you kind of, it takes a while for that to become apparent. But I suppose when it comes to child, mother, daughter dynamic that we're always talking about, that is very creative and usually very, very positive, because they're so linked with us. So they're nearly kind of mirroring. That mirroring is happening all the time. So if you do create that, conscious, emergent, I suppose, new kind of innovative relationship, like they really blossom from it, don't they? Because
they do. Because you're coming into emotional presence, right? And I don't know, we've talked about this before. Like I remember as a teenager having all of this feeling, and having no space to share it. Like there was just nowhere for me to be myself, because, and it was nobody's fault. It was just that my parents didn't understand emotional presence, like they weren't really connected to their feelings because, they were just doing what they were doing. But for me, like when I can actually step back, meet my emotional need, I'm not requiring my daughter to be anything to make me feel better, which then takes all the pressure off her and she can turn up just how she is. I meet my emotional need and I'm in emotional presence, which means I can hold a very safe space for her to feel exactly what she's feeling and to be able to share, and she can trust me because I'm not reacting. I don't need her to perform in any certain way, or I've got no conditions that I'm placing on her. I can just hold that space and I can share from how I'm feeling authentically without putting any blame on her or any persecution. And so we can actually have a conversation that is co-creative. Like we actually manage to find a solution, because in emotional presence, that's what happens. It's like we are emerging into the next moment together. We're like, where is this going to lead? Because, we're able to own our emotions. How is this going to inform the next moment of my life? Now that I'm here right now and we're sitting in this and this is how it feels, how will this inform the next moment that we live together? That we go out into our life. And that is like so powerful, because we're both connected to our authentic selves,
Yeah. It's hugely powerful, because like that, it's like as if, again, if you're on the road and you're kind of picking a different route completely. It's like we've always gone on the M50 here and we decided, no, we're going to go on a different route, the kind of way. And it's just, you don't know where it's going to take you, but you get the feeling, though. You get that feeling of a whoosh of kind of, they call it's Eros, that life energy, vitality, and the kind of excitement. Even your mind, you can feel, the kind of hormones rushing, that you're kind of in something that's fresh and that's new, and it's
you can feel
emergent,
it.
and it brings that vitality back into your body, kind of thing. And it has that beautiful, like, because you're connecting, that's the feeling of true connection, because we're built biologically to be in relationships, and that's how we evolve. So if we're not relating in the true sense, then we're going to feel stagnant in our bodies, but when we start to kind of learn how to have that vital kind of connection, it just becomes so kind of exciting to our senses, to our body, to our whole system, So like that's a real sign that you're kind of tapped into it,
And it's so assuring, isn't it? Like, like as a mum of a teenage daughter, I can get thrown some curveballs, right?
Yeah.
And really, like that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
It's my capacity to be able to come into that deep connection with myself and her that I don't have to freak out, like I don't have to, oh my God, how am I going to fix this? Which is what a lot of mums feel, because like, why wouldn't they? The world's pretty chaotic, right? But the more I'm in that, I feel a sense of, it's okay. I'm in an emerging process. It's okay. I feel supported. I feel this sense of inner power. I feel this sense of, I know there's a solution, because actually we're just where we need to be right now. And it's exactly perfect as we emerge into this next version of ourselves. And that, even just that alone, is like priceless as a parent, right?
Absolutely. And it's like as if they're updating us as well, because like they're actually bringing our old conditioning and everything up to the surface, into the fresh air. Because a lot of it's like cultural things, and they might say to you like, oh, what do you think about this, or sexuality, or piercing, or anything that they want, or relationships. Like, it's just so open now. And like, if we didn't have teenagers, we wouldn't have the opportunity for that to be updating ourselves, that kind of way, where we have to question, what do we really feel about this, and what do we hold true to ourselves, and what is true, what is important to keep in society, and what's ready to be let go of, so it's so creative, I think, like when you start to really use it like that, to try and upgrade yourself. And they give you so much energy, teenagers, actually, they really do.
Oh, they do, don't they? You do. Sort of like, you wish you could bottle it up sometimes, right? It's like, oh, if only I could just take a little bit more of that and just pop it back in. I didn't get enough of it back then. I didn't appreciate it when I was a teenager. Just pop it back in.
Yeah.
So it's an incredible thing, becoming emotionally receptive to my own needs and being able to meet them. Like, I have found this such an empowering thing for myself as a woman. I don't wait to feel empowered. Like, often there's been this, I hear a lot of women saying, oh, when this happens, we'll be empowered. Women will be empowered when that happens, when wages change. But actually right now I can feel empowered in myself.
Yeah.
I don't have to wait. I can do it right here and now for myself. And then I'm actually creating that solution that I really want in the workplace or wherever it is, because I'm in a place of power to be able to bring in the change that I really want to see.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like the first place
Yes.
where all change starts.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's another question from the Facebook user. Lisa, do you want to address that?
Oh, yeah. I was always making other people happy, but I wasn't happy. I was using all my energy and time, and now I'm putting that into myself. I've had an emotional attachment, and it was hard for me to cut the cords. Now I understand it's not about blaming the other person. I know now I don't need to fight to feel like a priority in someone's life or to fight to feel loved. I have learned a lot of lessons for myself, and that's beautiful. That's the emotional growth. You can hear that empowerment in that, because while we are blaming the other person, we totally avoid meeting our own emotional needs because we're wanting them to do that for us. And like you said, Carolyn, they can't get into our body and fix our feelings. They're our feelings. So it's just such a silly thing that we're raised. It's not our fault, but that's actually how we're raised.
Exactly.
Make people, keep you happy, get things, keep you happy. But how can that be? Because our feelings are inside of us. And when we start to go and be really discerning and investigate it and own it, it's a completely different world.
That's amazing. And I love that. I love that comment. Thank you so much for writing in, whoever that was. I'm not sure who it was, if you want to put your name. But that's really just is a little encapsulation of the journey, in that comment, isn't it? The way you kind of feeling that you should, like having to own that. But it's really education for people as well, that like that emotional attachment to other people's feelings, when you have to find that emotional, security in yourself, So thank you so much, Lisa.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We've really enjoyed being with you tonight. And as per usual, Carolyn and I always enjoy having these discussions.
Yes, always.
Thank you, Carolyn.
We never tire of it, do we?
We don't. It's like we go deeper and deeper all the time. And it's it's our jam. It's really good. So we hope to see you. Thank you. Thank you, whoever that is. We will be here again on Wednesday night. And also on Saturday morning, Australian time, or Friday night in the Northern Hemisphere. So 3 times a week you can catch us, and we're always talking about different things, helping you go deeper into your emotional empowerment so that you can have brilliant relationships in your life.
Yeah, exactly. Diamond relationships.
Diamond relationships, yes. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for your loves and hearts and everything that I see.
Yeah,
and for everybody who's watching. Thank you so much. Bye. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.